September 18th, 2021. Here's the fringed gentian that I started from seed, biennial last year. The basal rosettes formed, and then this year it grew and bloomed. This area is inundated with water a few times during the winter, at least, very wet. But then of course it dries out, but these have been blooming for a few weeks now. Here's the wet meadow looking toward the west. Lots of microstesium still. The real menace though that has come here in the last couple of years has been started to appear has been mile a minute. The polygonum, terrible stuff. There's some growing really close by, so I have to really work at keeping it out of the meadow. I'm sure it's already in here somewhere. As we look toward the east, and this is where it's a little more upland, a little drier conditions, more canopy trees. You know, the wet meadow lost a lot of its cover from the death of the ash, from the emerald ash borer, and I think also from wet conditions. But this area is where the polygonum, the myelin is making inroads, and it's really heavily infested, parts of it. So I'm going to work on trying to control that. Of course, the microstesium continues to be an issue, but as you can see, there's some nice native vegetation that's establishing itself. You know, the asters, the goldenrod, the most ubiquitous plants. But then there's willow herb, also very common, and then things like the lobelia syphilitica. This was actually a zizia plant that I planted, but it came with a free lobelia, which I was very excited about, and hopefully it'll seed itself. Sensitive ferns. There's, of course, the blackberry, which are almost problematic because of the thorns. I love them, and I know that they are native, and they are protected here from the deer browsing, but they're really brutal, so I have to work on keeping them in check, because you just can't even walk past it without getting scratched. This is the Rudbeckia laciniata, which I had planted in areas, and it's just been seeding itself throughout the garden. So I'm getting eaten by ants, so I better start moving. So I'm, just going to continue to keep the multiflora rose, has to be kept in check. It's a little bit overwhelming sometimes. The one species of woody plant that I see colonizing is the Salix willow, and I don't know my willows very well, but I like them, and I'm assuming they're native. But once again, I don't want this to become a wooded wetland, so I have to also be judicious about keeping them in check. Things like lonicera are also pretty ubiquitous here. The non-native, of course. The native lonicera sempervirens does very well, and I plant it, and I've seen it sort of start to colonize both the red forms, orange forms, and the yellow form. And of course the goldenrods, which are also prone to be a little bit invasive, but they're beautiful this time of year, and there's many different types. We have some maples that are establishing themselves. I don't know what to think about the future of the deciduous canopy trees. I definitely leave oaks alone, but the maples, once again, I would like to see them come back in certain areas, but I want to keep the meadow open. Moving toward the Mount Airy side where it gets dry again on the edges. There's lots of aster, the New England aster, novi, anglaise, and I always forget. I do have the New York aster, but that's the one that the rabbits really seem to like. The New England aster is beautiful. I love it, and its problem has been not so much browsing, but in the winter, the voles or some sort of burrowing rodent eats the roots. Still, it comes back in areas and sort of seems to migrate. It's doing really well. It's obviously very happy here. I've decided that this is really a garden that, or I should say, a native plant area that's at its best in the fall. But I do want to run some paths through the center there for a few purposes, to keep a check on the invasives that are definitely going to start showing up, and to also have a place that we can walk to see what other things come up. But this area was really just nothing but degraded with mangostasium and not much else. A few woody plants just like 3 or 4 years ago. So it's really come a long way. It's really beautiful.